Welcome to Mastering Your Financial Life, hosted by Judy Heft, the founder and CEO of Judy Heft and Associates Financial and Lifestyle Concierge. This year, they're celebrating 26 years in business. In every episode, Judy interviews professionals who help others successfully manage their financial lives. You can find this show on YouTube, LinkedIn, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, and more. Judy is the author of 2 books, How to Be Smart, Successful, and Organized with Your Money for a Better Today and Tomorrow, and her latest book, Mastering Your Financial Life Cycles, How to Successfully Manage Money in Every Decade of Life. You can read chapters of her books and catch prior episodes of this show at www.judithheft.com. Now here's the host of Mastering Your Financial Life, Judy Heft.
Hey everybody, welcome. Welcome to episode 39 of Mastering Your Financial Life. I'm Judy Heft, founder and CEO of Judy Heft and Associates, and today we are here with Elle Erickson. Elle is of counsel with the firm Erickson, Mayevsky, and Sloan. That's a mouthful, but I got it right. And she's a matrimonial attorney, celebrating 15 years helping people get through the muck and mire of dealing with divorce. And she's really dedicated to that. She's a litigator, and so she just really helps people, I don't know, maybe I want to say come to their senses, or helps them figure out what to do by, letting them know that we don't want to just litigate all the time. We need to come to a decision. I'm sure that's not easy. So thank you, Elle. Thank you for being a guest here with me. I guess there's a few questions, things we want to talk about. So you do a lot of prenups for your people, and, why is that important, and who doesn't? Are they more younger couples, or are they later couples later in life, second and third marriages? How does that all work out?
Well, there's a lot of reasons that people would choose to do a prenuptial agreement or any kind of marital agreement, including a postnuptial agreement, which could happen at any stage, even for couples that are still engaged in their marriage. But a prenuptial agreement, especially for younger couples, is a very important thing to consider, because quite often it might be a reason to start the first discussion about money. Sometimes people are young in their professional lives and very much in love and getting married, and they're gung-ho wedding planning, and it might not have crossed their minds to start really thinking about the fact that they're entering an economic partnership. Under the law, that's what a marriage is. It is an economic partnership, and it might not be any other reason for them to sit down and start thinking about, once they say I do, what they are each going to be bringing to the table and taking away, and exactly what that's going to look like for them. But there's other reasons that people would have prenups as well. I really like them for younger people too. Once they then proceed into the marriage, it gives them a reason to continue that conversation. Who has what at any time? Where's the money going, and how are they sharing those finances into the future?
Money conversations are so difficult, and I think, yes, I agree with you. It's smart to get that out of the way in the beginning, because if you don't talk about money and who's going to pay for what and how we're going to figure this out, and I brought this into the marriage and you brought that, and this we accumulated together. I think, I love that, setting the tone in the beginning, because if not, then that's going to be problems later on. I mean, when I got married, one of the things my sister said to me was, you'll just fight about money and kids. And I was like, no, we're never going to fight about that. Yeah, well, that's what we fought about. It's so
right.
True. But I think that's really smart to get that out of the way in the beginning. And so, set your boundaries, figure out what's comfortable for both of you. that's one of the things that we get questioned about too, not the divorce or prenups, but as far as what kind of an account to have, should there be a household account? Should they keep their money separate and then just pool? And then the other question is, how much should it be? Should it be a percentage? He makes more money, she makes more money, or is it 50-50? So yeah, I think it's a good way to start out is by setting that down first.
Exactly. And a lot of times when you're dating and I'll buy dinner tonight, or I'll buy dinner, so and so buys dinner the next night. Even when you're living together and you're sharing expenses, that we're sharing rent 50-50. That's great. But once you get married, now that doesn't necessarily mean the same thing as it does before you get married, when you're just living together. So a prenuptial agreement will specify exactly what that sharing of expenses now means, and you have that expectation so that if something happens down the line, you can't go back. You have something, an understanding that you go back to and say, well, wait, we were sharing rent, or we were both equally contributing to the mortgage all these years, but she was earning twice as much as I was, and I was paying the cable and the rent and the cars and these things, and she was paying the mortgage, and that was our agreement all along. That's all very well and good, but under the law, it may not mean what you think it means when in hindsight, unless you put it down on a piece of paper. And it's nice to talk about it when you're going into it and you're happy with each other, then in hindsight, with the emotion and the everything that comes with it at the end of a marriage and dealing with it then.
That's so true. Yes, that's good to get that out of the way. And then what about for older couples that are, coming from different, they're either, widowed or divorced, and, they brought X amount into the marriage, and then the other person did, and then they each have their own children. They're not having children together. How does that all work?
Right. So, prenuptial agreements for older couples are great too. In that respect, they're an important part of an estate plan, right? If you're coming to a marriage and you have children, either maybe adult children or not, but children of your own, then it's good to be able to say, well, I'm getting married and maybe I've been married before and I have this property, and I want to make sure that if something happens in this marriage, that this is going to be what's going to be for my kids. And
right.
Quite often we work with estate planning attorneys as part of an estate plan.
Yeah, that's so important. You got to get that out there and get it down, and maybe set up different trusts and things.
It's part and parcel.
Yeah, estate planning attorneys definitely know how to, structure that the right way. So let's take a little break here. We're here with Elle Erickson, and we'll come back in another few seconds. Hey there. I just want to tell you a little bit about my new book that just came out called Mastering Your Financial Life Cycles. And here it is. It's how to successfully manage your money in every decade of life. I co-authored this with my CFO, Liz Levy, and together we created this manual that's going to help you through every stage of life. We talk about having a baby. We talk about young adulthood, pre-retirement, what to do when you're at that age of retirement. If you're contemplating divorce, do you need an estate plan? We cover all of these, each subject in a different chapter. And I really think that you're going to find this so helpful, because at the end of every chapter, we have checklists that you can look at and you can use, and they can be a guide for you. So this is a wonderful manual that we've created. It's available on Amazon. You can also find it on our website at judithheft.com/book. And we're here for you. If you need anything, reach out. I hope you enjoy the book. Here's another picture of it, just so you know what's going on. Here it is. And I'm really proud of it. It's my second book, and I'd love to have you read it and give me your feedback. Judy Heft, judithheft.com, financial and lifestyle concierge, celebrating 26 years in business. And over the years, I've learned so much. And what I've been trying to do is impart a little bit of this knowledge to you so I can help all of you become as financially organized as I am. And we're back here with Elle Erickson. So, I think, we help a lot of clients that are going through divorce put their numbers together for their financial affidavit, statement of net worth, because I think, as you probably know too, most people have no clue what they're spending on what, and those statements of net worth are just very detailed, and so it can be overwhelming. So we talk with a lot of divorce, usually women too, sometimes it's the men, but I think people think that, okay, I'm going to get divorced and it's going to cost me half as much to live. But that's not the right answer, because you're still paying a mortgage and utilities and all that kind of stuff. So what are some of the misconceptions about the financial issues that you've seen over the years, in regard to divorcing?
Right. Well, I think that's exactly it. It's going to cost me half as much to live. So, but it's not. Child support is something that's, and spousal maintenance are two really, and I have to just couch these comments with that they're based only on what happens in New York, because that's my experience. But they are still universally very confusing topics for people. What's included in child support? In New York, when we think about child support, it's based sort of on what it costs, sort of the everything that it costs to raise children, except for what we call add-on expenses, which are unreimbursed medical expenses, childcare, and educational expenses in New York. So, but everything else, you have to consider what it takes to what's in your budget to raise your kids. That is your housing and the clothing, the roof over the head to keep the lights on, your car expenses. If maybe not necessarily in New York City if you have a car, but if you are driving and that your kids around, that's in your budget for your kids, and a lot of people don't necessarily consider that. Another thing to consider, and I get this a lot, is, well, I need an attorney, but I can't afford one. My spouse has all the money. I think a really important thing that people need to know in New York is that there's a presumption that the less money spouse will be entitled to a certain portion of their counsel fees paid by the other spouse, the spouse with greater access to financial resources. I think that's really important in terms of financial planning, but you also, of course, don't want to, be spending all of the money on counsel fees. So that's an important consideration as well. Those are a couple things to consider.
Yeah, one of the things you said, kind of resonated. You said, about lawyers, I can't afford a lawyer. Well, I think you can't not afford a lawyer.
Right.
Because they know what's going on. They can represent you better in court. I mean, what do they say? A lawyer who represents himself has a fool for a lawyer, or something like that.
As a fool for a client.
For a client, right.
There's some statistic out there, and I forget what it is, but there's something that where there's where both parties have attorneys, and the attorneys are collegial with each other or know each other, that the divorce overall actually is less expensive, because the attorneys can sit down and work and hopefully get it done. I don't want to miscite numbers, but that's the idea, is because the attorneys should know how to work and get the issues done efficiently. And I'm not here to make promises. Certainly there's conflicts in every case, and everyone should be heard, and we zealously represent our clients. But both sides need to have representation. And that is why that presumption in New York exists, so that both sides can have representation, not just the person with the access to the financial resources.
Yeah, well, that makes sense. That's the way it should be. So this was great. I think our listeners probably learned a lot listening to you today. So how can they find you?
Our website is amsllp.com.
Okay, great.
It's been great chatting with you, Judy. I've read your book. It's fantastic. And it's actually what made me think about that I wanted to talk about prenuptial agreements with you, because it's part of planning for different stages of your life.
It is. So thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, I'm glad you enjoyed it. That's been great. It's been great talking to you, Ellie, and I hope I can see you again soon. Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
You've been listening to Mastering Your Financial Life, hosted by Judy Heft. Thank you for your positive reviews, comments, and sharing this show with others. You can read chapters of Judy's books and catch prior episodes of Mastering Your Financial Life at www.judithheft.com.